After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Purport.
Yes. This material world that we're familiar with, we're living in, we should study it and see the characteristics. Characteristics are that everything here, everyone is born, then they grow for some time and reach maturity and produce offspring and dwindle and die. And after that, unseen by many, the living being is transferred to another body, and he goes through the same process again in that body. And there are 8,400,000 species that are all revolving in this way. Species begin from the aquatics. There's a type of evolution in consciousness, beginning with the lower, the aquatics, those that live in water, including bacteria. There are also species, and they also have life. It may be a small body, but it has all the constituents that our bodies have. They can move, they can eat, they can reproduce, they can defend, have their system of mating. So beginning with aquatics, Navana, Navalakshani, Jalaja Navalakshani, 900,000 species that live in the water. Nava, Jalaja Navalakshani, Stavaram Lakshamimshati. Then the living entity transmigrates to the species of the plants and trees. Stavaram means they don't move. They stay in one place. Stavaram, Lakshamimshati, 3 million species of plants, trees. Krimayo Rudrasamkyaka, 1,100,000 species of insects and reptiles. Pakshinam, Dasalakshanam, then they get wings. And then there's 1 million species of birds. Trimsha Lakshani, Bhutani, Parshava. 3 million, I said 3 million trees and plants, it's 2 million. And 3 million species of four-legged animals. And then 400,000 species, Chaturlakshani Manusha. 400,000 species of humans, beginning with monkeys, going up to the demigods. So, the cycle of birth, growth, deterioration, and reproduction, this goes on in all the species, same thing. And it ends with death, and then it starts with birth again. So this cycle keeps going on. And the system is that one is subjected to this type of existence until he becomes self-realized. Some living entities may never become self-realized. They're just not interested. But of course, we don't know anything about self-realized mosquitoes or self-realized trees, because in these lower species, lower than human, self-realization is not an option. You don't have the capacity to even conceive of something beyond just their immediate necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That means that the human form, especially the civilized human form, is the opportunity for the living entity to escape this repetitive cycle of birth and death. And they can do that by self-realization. And self-realization, as described in this verse, is called yoga. Yoga means self-realization. And the particular type of yogis that's being described in this verse is the yogis in devotion. And that's bhakti yoga. Krishna is describing the topmost yogis. Yogina gopi sarvesham akatena taratmana shradhabam bhajate yomam samyukta tamamata. There's different types of yoga. There's philosophical speculation. That's called jnana yoga. And there's meditational process, which includes pranayama, breathing exercise, sitting postures, hatha yoga, etc. Ashtanga yoga. That's another type. But Krishna is describing the topmost type, which is the yogi of devotion. The others are yoga with still some motivation for one's personal gain. When we say personal gain, it means they're striving for their own pleasure in some way, or just like the impersonalists, the jnanis, yogis, they're intelligent. They've understood that this place is a place of suffering, and they want to free themselves from that suffering by the process of meditation or philosophy, philosophical analysis. And they want to try to give up their individuality so they won't have to take material bodies. And they want to just exist in a kind of a neutral stage where one's existing, he's not suffering, but he's not active. That's another type. But the type of yoga that Krishna is describing here, the yogis in devotion, they attain a higher state. Beyond this material world, there's a spiritual world. In other words, when we look up in the sky, what we see is material sky, material space, material sun, material planets, moon, stars. These are material. Why they're material? Because they're made of matter. Matter means earth, water, fire, air, ether, intelligence. And false ego, these are 8 elements. And in our experience, this is what we see, this is what we perceive. But what we don't perceive is the spirit, the life force. Because these things together, earth and water and fire, and you mix them all together, still life is not there, because we see in the dead body, there's still earth there, still water, still fire. As soon as a person dies, the body's intact as it was a few seconds before. But something has changed. The life force has gone. In fact, we even say, my grandfather passed away. So we should think about that. It's not just a euphemism. We say he passed away to give it a personal, sentimental touch. It's actually the reality. The living entity that was animating the body has passed away. But because the soul, the spirit, is very small and is comprised of a different element of spirit, we can't see it. We can't see the soul. So the doctors, when the man is on the surgery table, they're trying to save his life. Suddenly, machines register that there's no more life symptoms. So they say he's gone, he's passed away. And the relatives may cry. Another person comes into the room and says, why is everyone crying? They say, because grandfather passed away. They say, no, he didn't. He's on the bed. No, not. That's just his body. That's not grandfather. Grandfather left. Grandfather, what did he look like? That's the same grandfather I always knew. So the soul is invisible to material eyes. That's not so hard to believe. There's many things that are invisible to the human eye. Many types of subtle rays from the sun, X-rays we can't see, gamma rays, infrared. It's a whole spectrum of things we can't see with our eyes. We can't claim that everything has to be visible to our eyes because our eyes are limited. There's other things that are not perceived by the eyes. Sounds are real. Microwave, sound waves. And they can act, even though it's not visible. And even our minds, we all have minds. We change our mind, we use our mind for thinking, but we can't see it. That doesn't mean that we don't have a mind. So if we can accept that there's a mind is not the same as a brain, it's a more subtle aspect. Brain is a hardware for the mind, which is more subtle. So if we can accept that there's mind, there's intelligence, there's all these different rays from the sun that we can't see. How can we say that It's not possible for there to be a living being that we can't see. Living force. Living force is something. Everyone admits that. It's something, but they don't know what it is. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, and others, they cannot understand it all. Aishvar, the soul is, it's amazing. Everything's amazing when we really analyze it. Even matter is amazing. Even earth is amazing. How is it that you have some substance called earth and you put a seed in it and put water on it and it grows? That's already amazing. Air is amazing. Fire is amazing. We humans, we can't create any of these things. We can't create earth, water, fire, air, or ether. These things are supplied to us. They're amazing, but even more amazing is the living being, because the living being has consciousness. That's the difference between matter and spirit. So does the body have consciousness when the soul, when there's no spirit, there's no life? No. Consciousness goes away with the life force. The life force we couldn't see. It's that little tiny spirit spark, which is part of Krishna, that animates the body and gives it consciousness. And when that spiritual part leaves the body, someone may say, he had a heart attack, therefore he died. But actually what happened was, the spirit soul left and the heart failed. So it's a little different. It's not that life comes from matter, it's that life comes from life. And matter appears to be activated. It is activated under the control of the spiritual being. Just like a pilot gets into a jet airplane. Before he gets in, the jet is just sitting there. It can sit there for thousands of years. It won't go anywhere. But when the pilot gets in, he pushes the buttons and everything begins happening and he can even fly. When he gets out, then no more activity. So actually, the jet airplane is not alive. It's not conscious. Consciousness is in the pilot. We are the pilot for this body. But this is not our real position. To be in the material world is a foreign state. It's like a fish out of water. When you take a fish out of water and put him on the beach, he's not happy. Someone may say, well, he looks happy. Look, he's flopping around. He's dancing. He's not dancing. He's miserable. He's flopping. He's dying. No matter what you give him, even if you give him nice food or a nice female fish or a comfortable seat, he won't be happy because he's out of the water, he's out of his natural condition. When you put him back in the water, then he can enjoy everything. Similarly, we are fish out of water. This is not our home. We're not beings of this material world. We're beings of the spiritual world. How did we get here? That's another topic, which we don't have to discuss right now, because the important thing is, it's like if a fish is on the beach, he doesn't have to say, how did I get here? his first business is to get back. That's yoga and devotion. That's what it's all about. Practicing yoga and devotion brings one back to the state where he's reinstated in the spiritual world, which is beyond the sky that we see, that we perceive. There's another sky. Spiritual sky is called Paravyoma. And in that Paravyoma there are millions of spiritual planets with living entities like ourselves. Same type of living entities as we are. The difference is that they don't have material bodies, they have spiritual bodies made of spirit. It's like we can have a mental picture of something. Let's say a body, somebody's body. So I can think of that in my mind, and you could say, I have a picture of his body, mental body. It's more subtle. Or someone envisions in his mind, he has an idea of creating a skyscraper building. Mental picture. Then that mental picture is transposed to an artist. An artist makes a drawing based on the mental picture. And the engineers make their drawings. And the construction team comes in and the whole skyscraper is built. But it began with a subtle mental picture, mental idea. I'm giving that example just so we can see that there is such a thing as form in the subtle form, not just gross form. It doesn't have to be just made of steel and concrete. The skyscraper is made of steel and concrete, but in its beginning stage, it was a mental picture. And everything in the skyscraper came from that mental, subtle picture or concept. But even more subtle than the mind is the spirit. Spiritual nature has everything that is material comes from spirit. Janmāgyasya yataha. And the Supreme Spirit is Krishna. Everything comes from Him. Matter and spirit. Om sarvasya prabhavo vatakvar pravam pramartate. Krishna says He is the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from Him. So we are also part and parcel of God, Krishna. But we are superior energy because we have consciousness. We inhabit material bodies that are inferior energy that have no consciousness. But they can be manipulated by the spiritual being. So the purpose of life is to get back to the spiritual world. And the way that's done is yoga and devotion. Krishna says, those who become proficient in the yoga of devotion, they are entitled to go back to the spiritual world, which is our home. Home is the place where we can live permanently. Home is not a place where you're thrown and you temporarily flop around like the fish on the beach. The fish doesn't consider the beach his home, even though it's close to his home. He's supposed to get himself back to the water. So we're supposed to get ourselves back to the spiritual atmosphere. Then we can be happy and free from this suffering of the material world. The material world is full of suffering. Tukala Yamashashata. So many sufferings, adibhautikam sufferings, miseries inflicted by other living entities, such as humans, or mosquitoes, or tigers. Miseries inflicted by nature, such as extreme heat or extreme cold, hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis. These are miseries. And there's miseries inflicted by myself, my own body, or my own mind. When the mind is disturbed, I suffer. Someone says something to me. And there's unlimited varieties of these miseries. We shouldn't be fooled by the advertising that we're going to be able to enjoy life forever here. It doesn't work like that. Even when you're thinking, I have all my plans for enjoyment, sometimes those plans are interrupted. And even if they're not interrupted, they're interrupted by old age, disease, and death. We shouldn't be satisfied with this non-thinking existence where I just go through life like an animal, and death comes and I die, and someone asks me, what was that all about? I don't know. I'm in terror, I'm about to die. What happens afterwards, I don't know. We shouldn't be in ignorance. We should learn. Who am I? What is my purpose? What is the goal of life? And how do I do it? Therefore the Guru is required, spiritual master. He teaches us these things. Spiritual master is the expert in the science of devotion, the yoga of devotion. He's a practitioner, he's not just a philosopher. He's a philosopher and a practitioner, both. He teaches us, he guides us. Without that guidance, we can't extricate ourselves from this misery, this darkness of ignorance. It requires training, education. It's the highest form of education, superior to anything material, including astrophysics and whatever we may think is, or mathematics, whatever we think is the highest form of knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is beyond that, because it explains things that are beyond material conception. So yoga and devotion, if we want to get out of this suffering condition, if we don't think we're suffering now, just wait a while. If you think, well, I'm not suffering, everything's going nice, and wait a little while, and you may say, well, I've got another 40, 50 years to go, I might as well just go on enjoying. That's foolish. If you know, if you hear from a reliable source that there's a hostile army that's about to invade your area, what do? You say, when you find out they're coming in 2 weeks with all kinds of tanks and bombs, weapons, they're coming to invade and destroy your area, what do you do? Anyone? Start growing a garden? Start planting a garden? Do some renovations on your house? No. What do? If you have some intelligence, you leave. Because you don't want to be destroyed by the invasion. What about death? Isn't that an invasion? What about old age, disease? These are miseries. We should be thoughtful. We shouldn't just be mindless. If you talk to a dog and you try to explain, you're going to get old someday, you're going to have to give up the body, he can't understand it because he doesn't have the capacity. But we do. So if we have the capacity and we don't take advantage of it, that's the greatest loss. So Krishna Consciousness Movement is encouraging everyone to wake up to the reality of what's happening. The invasion is coming. Wake up, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapravaram Namorta Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Inquire into the spiritual nature. Become well versed in this spiritual science, this yoga. Practice yoga of devotion, which begins with chanting and hearing. Then one's life is successful. So a question may come up. I'm interested in the yoga of devotion, but what about the pleasures I'm already accustomed to? Do I have to give up those pleasures? No. Eating continues, sleeping continues, mating continues. All the music continues, art continues. All the things we enjoy, relationships, friendships, they're all there on the spiritual level, but they're better. You can ask those who experience life on the material platform and then have transferred their energy to spiritual life. They can tell you there's a difference. Material relationships are temporary, material pleasure is temporary, and spiritual pleasures are eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge, like the soul itself. We encourage all of you to pursue this in your life as your number one priority. Don't worry about planting your garden. I'm saying that. Gardens are nice, I'm just saying. I'm using it in the analogy of when the invasion's coming. That's not the time. That's the time for getting out. So we can't stay here permanently in this material world. It's not our real home. Our real home is in the spiritual world with Krishna and Krishna's associates. That is the one solution to all problems. Many may offer you solutions, IT solutions and automobile solutions. But the one solution that solves all problems is that we return to our spiritual nature, spiritual consciousness, transcend all the miseries of material life. Just like the sun is always shining above the clouds. So when the storm's very dark and creating a lot of disturbance, you have to go above the clouds. Thank you for your attention. If there's any questions, we'll try to answer.
Sanotko kovempaa? Sanotko uudestaan? Sano suomeksi, niin mä voin kääntää.
Missä on Krishna, kun me ollaan yksin? Missä on kukat tekastua?
Where is Krishna when we are alone? Ja miten se jatkuu? And he says that where are the flowers when you don't water them?
What's the question?
Where is Krishna when we are alone?
You're not alone. Krishna's always with you. He's in the heart. Ishvara sarvabhutana hridesha jinatishtati. Krishna says, I'm situated in the heart of every living entity. So he's there as the super soul, as the, in Walt Disney terms, they said, let your conscience be your guide. So the source of that conscience, that's Krishna. He's the super soul in the heart. Other questions?
Maharaj, did you say that there are living entities who are not interested in self-realization? Never.
Some, that's their choice. If they don't want it, it's like some people, if you tell them, would you like to know about spiritual life, would you like to learn about God, Krishna, they say, no, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in those things. Okay, so this lifetime they're not interested. Next lifetime they may become a worm. Worms are not interested. There's no worms interested in self-realization. So what they have to wait for is, they have to wait till they transmigrate sequentially up to the human form again. Human form is the mature stage of material existence. In that stage one can understand. Just like a child cannot understand engineering. But he has the potential, but he has to wait till his body changes. When he gets to a certain age, then he can understand engineering. But if he doesn't want, then he can choose not to understand. So similarly, when one gets to the human form, now he has the opportunity for self-realization. But if he doesn't want it, he's simply interested in material things, wasting his time. Then he loses. But he gets another chance again, but it may take many millions of lifetimes till he comes up to the human form again. So better not waste time. Why go through the different species? We've already been through these species. The worm species, the tree species, the dog species. Why go back again? Why not solve the problems now? But yes, some living entities may not be interested ever. That's their choice. But if we're one of those living entities now, we should change that by associating with those living entities who are self-realized or who are on the path of self-realization. Other questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Maharaj. Yesterday on Ratha Yatra, one person he asked, like, God is everywhere. Why you need this form of God? Why you worship this deity form?
If God is everywhere, He's also in the deity. Why not worship the deity? God is everywhere, and that's true. That's His impersonal feature. Just like, for example, in this country, who's the Prime Minister?
Sipilä, Juha Sipilä.
Mr. Sipilä, okay. So you could say he's everywhere. He's all over Finland. His influence is everywhere. He's got the sea. He's got his intelligence officers. He's got his police force, the army. He's got money. He's got so on. But still, he has his own personal being. He has his body. He has his home. He's a person. He has a wife. He has children. Even though he's everywhere through his energy, this is a crude example but you get the idea. Still he's a person. So God is a person, but his energy is everything else. So in that everything else, he calls it Maya Tatamidam Sarvam Jagat Avyakta Murtina. Avyakta Murtina means unmanifested form. That's the everything part. But that person who told you that, he's appreciating nature, that's nice. But imagine how nice the person is who's the mastermind of nature, the artist, the musician, the one who has designed and maintains everything. Any other points? Yeah.
Is it possible to make something so sinful that one cannot engage in devotional service?
No. Brahmahyam Vikara. Even Jagai and Madai, there were two sinners that were so sinful, it was considered that there was no sins they hadn't performed. They were brutal. But still they were delivered and they took up Krishna consciousness. They became great devotees by the association of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. But anyway, don't try to see if you can commit so many sins that you can't. No, don't go in that direction. Let's go in the direction of giving up sinful life. Sinful life is characterized by four primary principles: meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. So we should give those things up, and at the same time practice yoga of devotion, beginning with hearing, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That makes it easy. By chanting, it's like a natural cure for all of our diseases. Disease of the mind, disease of the body, disease of everything. Disease of the society. It's all resolved by the chanting very nicely. Inechi Okshadi Maya Nashi Baralagi Hari Nama Mahamantra Lautamimagi. It's the perfect medicine to solve the problems of life. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Danavir Goswami Maharaj ki